Welcome back to Nazareth Podcast, the Catholic parenting podcast hosted by the Catholic Schools of Brooklyn and Queens. Today, we have another very special guest. Special in many ways because she is a bit of an expert in Catholic schools and specifically our Catholic schools. Everyone, welcome Katie Keville to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you for joining. So I just want to intro you and your work a little bit first. You are the Assistant Director of Enrollment Management here in the Diocese of Brooklyn Catholic Schools. So how would you describe that to a lay person not involved with education or in the Catholic Church? What do you do?
It's kind of multifold. As most people that work in anything Catholic schools is, we have multiple jobs. So one is when parents are searching for a Catholic school and they reach out via social media or our website or phone call, because we do have a hotline. I help them find the best school for them. I also work directly with the schools in how to welcome families and how to make sure they have the best experience and how to keep the families that they have, very involved in the school and feeling part of the community. Also helping the schools with marketing and advertising and branding. The board chairs and the principals and teachers went to school to learn how to educate, not how to, craft a perfect banner or social media paid ad. So that's where, I bring in, my expertise into how best to do that for your school.
Amazing. So you are doing a lot of work and a lot of very important work.
Couple of things, yeah.
For those of you who can't tell, I get to work with you very closely. And so I'm very thankful for the opportunity to work with her. Katie knows the way that all of our episodes start with a grace and a grapple.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready to share with the
I
audience?
am so ready. I was thinking of this last night because I knew it was coming. So my grapple right now, it is Lent.
Now, for those of you listening, Lent started yesterday.
It started yesterday. And technically it's part of my job, but I have an Instagram addiction. So, as most people my age do. So during Lent, at 8 p.m. every night, I am done with all things Facebook and Instagram, which it is such a habit that if my phone is even anywhere near me, you just if it's a commercial on TV, you're like, oh, and you go to pick up your phone, and you're like, no. And this is literally 24 hours. And I was, no, put it down. It's worth it, but yeah, it's real hard to break that habit. And I'm 24 hours in and I kind of got the shakes, so yeah.
So you're doing no social media, or you're just doing no social media after 8 o'clock?
My problem is I'm good during the day, but then at night you go and then you end up down the rabbit hole, and next thing you know, it's way past your bedtime. And, because you keep going, oh, 2 more minutes, and then I never do 2 more minutes.
So scroll.
Yeah. So it ends at 8 o'clock. So that is my grapple. My grace, I'm very excited. One of my best friends and I are taking a dance class on Saturday. I found a class for grown women that used to dance, that would love to get back into it, but don't have the skill level of, say, some of the professional studios that offer classes here in the city, because we are New York City. But this is more a go, and they play Broadway tunes and you have fun and, just dance for an hour and everything. So we planned a day around a dance class on Saturday. So
that is going to be so much fun.
So much fun. Mm-hmm.
It's going to become pretty evident as you're continuing to listen to this podcast. Katie and I are both theater people.
Yep. Yes.
So the idea of a dance class sounds fabulous. I will say, I think my grace is probably the salsa dancing lesson and the night that I'm planning on doing with my friends Saturday.
Yes.
So that's gonna be
Yes. I love that.
Mm-hmm. So come Monday, we'll be able to report how our dancing weekends.
Or not be able to walk. One or the other.
Hopefully I'll be walking. I guess my grapple would be, I am giving up, well, I'm giving up a couple things. I'm giving up shopping.
Oh.
But I'm also just like, I mean, obviously, like I could, like necessary things, like I will be feeding myself. But like, if I want, the cute pair of shoes, like I can wait until after Easter, right? But the other thing I'm giving up is sugar, like desserts.
What? I think I just killed the microphone with that. No.
I know. And I have never done this before. And I'm doing fine right now.
Okay.
But
we're 24 hours into it.
I'm 24 hours into it. I'm not doing like giving up every like fruit or honey or anything. Just like
That's real sugar. That's not
right. Like that's completely healthy. We're being completely reasonable.
You're not giving up natural sugar. You're giving up sweets.
But I've heard that people start to get cravings a couple of days in.
For sure.
So I'm like, what's coming for you?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We'll see. Hopefully, with the grace of the Lord, I will have no headaches and no sugar cravings.
Keep some grapes on hand or something.
Yes, I'll have some. I had raspberries this morning that satisfied.
Okay.
But I would say that's my anticipatory grapple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's dive into some deeper conversation about schools and about your work here at the diocese. So tell us just a little bit more about yourself and what got you into working in enrollment management and kind of why do you love it? Because obviously it is work, but it's something that you clearly have a passion for and that
it is a mission.
Wow, it is a mission. Anybody who works in education or for the church, especially together, knows it's a mission.
It's a mission, yeah. So I actually was in restaurants for 20 years in sales, and COVID kind of upended that. And I was looking for another job, and I saw the ad for this job, and I thought, that sounds really cool. I said, I don't know much about, enrollment or admissions, but I can people. Yeah. I can people very well.
You sure can.
So when I interviewed, our now boss, Ted, said, I can teach you admissions, but I can't teach peopling. That's a soft skill that theater kids have that can't really be taught. So, he took that and helped mold me. And honestly, because I love peopling, we have so many principals and board chairs, personalities that you're dealing with, and I love it. My favorite thing is to go into a school and, get to know the teachers and, how their classrooms are set up, get to know the principals and really build a trusting relationship there so that they feel that they can reach out to me when things are going on. Even if it's not something that I know the answer to, I can help them find the answer to it. And helping families. I feel like, I'm a child of educators. And so education, I believe, is the most important thing for a child. And not even necessarily the ABCs, but the whole education of the child. And helping families, when you find the right fit and a family's like, oh my God, we love it here. That really hits home. That they're like, yep, we found the place for our kid. We found the right fit. That I feel is one of the most important pieces.
Oh, I love that. So when you are getting to connect with families or even in your connection with school leadership, what kind of are the questions and concerns that come up a lot for families that are maybe looking for Catholic or an option besides public?
Sure.
They might be dissatisfied with it. What things are coming up for you where you're like, okay, I think you're going to be able to find a home in Catholic schools?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest things, but children with IESPs. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but the percentage of children today that have an IESP is huge. Certainly over half of our students. And we have worked so hard to be sure that we can help and be with these children and these families through every step of the way and that they are welcome into our schools. That is certainly something that parents, I have that conversation multiple times a year where they say, my child has an IESP, how do we help them with that? And I will say that tuition is also a conversation, because unlike a public school where it is free and charter schools where it is free, we do charge. We do have, and people may not know this, especially coming from outside of the Catholic schools, is we do have scholarships. We work with Futures in Education, an amazing group that their whole reason for being is to assist families with tuition to get them into our Catholic schools in a multiple of different ways. But that's, a conversation that I always tell families, like, never let the finances be the reason that your child does not get into one of our incredible schools, because we can work with you. There are ways.
That's such a common misconception that I think people don't even look into. They completely write off Catholic before even giving it a chance, because they assume that there is no way, especially in an expensive city.
Right. Well, I think that's a big piece is, are there private schools, not Catholic, private schools in New York that are astronomically expensive? Yes.
Of course.
And New York City. Because Catholic is somewhat considered private, a lot of families assume that it's the same, which definitely, our average tuition is around $6,000. The tuition of the kindergarten in my neighborhood is $50,000. There's a difference of, and I would say, having, because of my job done research into that $50,000 kindergarten, I think our education is far more exemplary for a fraction of the price. Yep. But I feel like families knowing, they've all watched, all the TV shows of all the kids in high school and private schools in New York. So they assume it's expensive. And it's affordable, and we can help you. We can help you make it more affordable.
Right, exactly. So that's kind of a misconception, obviously, that you and I hear about and are working to kind of debunk. What other sort of things do you wish that Catholic moms or dads, grandparents knew, misconceptions you could debunk before they're even touring, when they're sort of like curious about it and maybe there's some assumptions going on?
Of course.
But what do you wish you could just go up to the prospective parents and say, just so you know, it's not like this, or just so you know.
I promise. So, jokingly, but the biggest thing is everybody has heard the horror stories from our parents who attended Catholic school, or, the memes on Instagram and things about the old movies of the angry nun that's smacking your knuckles with a ruler, or, all of those sort of things. No. That's just not the way it is. I mean, our schools, do they have a set of values and are more disciplined? Yes. No one's getting smacked with a ruler. It's taught in ways that are accessible to children. Obviously we teach religion differently to a 4-year-old than we do to an 8th grader. It's something that builds up, and it's, definitely something that, you look at all the different ways that religion can be taught, whether it's, we see saint bees where the kids are all dressed up as the saint and doing that, the sacraments, mass, all the different ways. And so, one, take the time to see how we're, teaching religion. 2, I want to say every school is different.
Yeah.
Every school, when you've seen one Catholic school, you've seen one Catholic school. Honestly, we have schools that are 3 blocks away from each other, and they're entirely different. One, demographics. If you're looking for a school that looks like your child, please come to see us. We have many.
Yeah.
That, we have such a diverse background in so many of our schools that children, can feel, and families entirely can feel welcome and seen. And if you, some schools are more specialized in art, some schools are more specialized in robotics, things like that. If you're looking for a school that is more academically fierce, or a school that, is more social emotional. Visit a few schools. And as much as all of them are welcoming, they all have different vibes.
Yes.
And your child, you know your child.
Mm-hmm.
You know your child better than anyone.
Yeah.
And there are certain students that, they need vigorous academics. They're already there. They're 2 years old and they're reading books or something.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you're looking for that. Or if you have a tender-hearted child, and we all know a few of those, that maybe they need a soft place to land. Yeah. So knowing the specifics of your child and looking at the schools from that point of view. Do they all have great test scores? Yes. Are they all great schools? Yes. But they're all different. So visit a few, get to feel what you're looking for.
Would you say that's kind of your number one advice, is just tour multiple schools, or are there any things that you kind of recommend to look out for, or questions to ask when parents are kind of trying to figure out what the right fit is academically, socially, spiritually, touring, and then sort of what other things would you recommend when they're trying to figure it out?
Sure. I would say, especially if yes, visit multiple schools. Don't assume that the school that is closest to your house is the right fit. Mm-hmm. It might not be. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a school that's close to where you work, or, close to grandparents, something like that. Our grandparents are very involved in our schools.
Yes.
So, don't hesitate to go that route. But I would say, pre-tour, sit down with your partner, and what is any question? The craziest question you may ask, especially, God bless the parents of the 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds. They're terrified. They've never done this before. Even if you think it's a crazy question, write it down. When does my kid take naps? Does my kid get snacked? When is their lunch? Do they get PE class? Things like that. Like, if you have a hyperactive 4-year-old, you need to know if they're getting gym class, or if he's going to come home to you and you're going to need to let him run around the backyard real fast. I feel like there are no stupid questions. This is your child. There's no stupid questions. So really dig into the craziest things, because the principals, the admin assistants, anyone doing this tour, they want to answer those questions for you. And even if you think of something after the tour, don't hesitate to pick up the phone, and you're not bothering them. This is what they do, and they have kids in front of them all day. So they've seen everything, probably. They've seen everything. So, even if you think it's something, like if your child has a weird habit or something, like, hey, my child needs to XYZ, how would that fit into a school day? Let them answer, because when your questions go unanswered, it creates an anxiety that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
And we all have enough an anxiety problem, ask the questions.
Yeah. I do think it's important to highlight you can really ask any question, and it kind of ties into what we were saying about Catholic schools. Are the misconception that they aren't welcoming, or that they can't, that's just not true. And it is remarkable the amount of our Catholic schools who are not only able to take a child who might have specific needs or a learning difference, but they're actually excited to. And their teachers are really engaged and excited to do that. And even just having the conversation, even if it might not be a current need for your child, having the conversation when touring.
Absolutely. And, yes, there's awkward questions of, religion questions, the tuition questions, the IESP questions. Ask them. They've all been asked before. The principal's expecting them. Ask those questions. And also, with the training that our teachers have been getting in differentiated learning, there's the worry of, does my child have an IESP? And I don't know, especially with the young ones, how do you know? How, these teachers are trained to see this so that they can catch it when they're 3 or 4 years old, so they can get them on the right path to get the help that they need. That doesn't have to fall on the parent. You can lean on the educators who have, this is what they went to school for. This is what they're trained in.
Right. And I love what you mentioned too about asking about religion and tuition. It's sort of like these topics that might seem like sticky topics, but it's your child, and you get to be the beautiful thing about choosing Catholic education is it really is an active choice on the parents' part, and you get to steer that ship, especially when they're little ones. Now they're gonna get older and they may have opinions about what classes they want to take and where they want to go to school and where their friends are going. But especially when they're little, you really get to be the captain of that ship, and you really get to visit multiple schools, ask as many questions as you need to, and make a decision from there.
Yeah. And socially, talks on finances and talks on religion are always no-nos. You always know when you're at a dinner party, don't bring up money, don't bring up religion. But this is a Catholic school.
So we talk about both.
We talk about both. But for sure, they're expecting you to have questions. So have that conversation. To them, it's not awkward. They're ready for this conversation. And especially like we were saying, with the little ones, education is important, yes. But forming them morally with faith and values. Yes, you're doing that at home. Hopefully you're attending Mass on Sunday, having these conversations, praying with them before bed. But for it to be integrated into everything they're doing in education. First of all, if you're ever having a bad day, go visit the 3 and 4-year-olds in a school. It will instantly make it better. But listening to them read storybooks that are, different religious stories, or doing little arts and crafts that are, they're making their little, Easter, he is risen coloring pieces. They're learning about their faith and values, and it's shaping them. We all want, when you have children, you want them to grow up to be good people.
Yeah.
Good people. Starting that when they're 3 or 4 and up through, and it being involved in all parts of their education, and not just in the classroom, but in service projects that they're doing. Learning about children with cancer by doing a special dress down day in yellow for kids in leukemia, and having a little lesson around why we're having this dress down day, or bringing in food for the parish's food pantry, and getting to go over and restock it and understand that there are people with less and you need to help as much as you can. Teaching them Christ's values in everything that they do, which is what we can do in a Catholic school. And you can celebrate, Christmas, Easter, all of these incredible things. The Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, all these things are stuff that we get to celebrate. It's a joyful thing.
It's a really, the way I would describe it is it's such a rich environment of the children are always so aware of where we are liturgically.
Yes.
Which is beautiful because it's also just incorporated into their everyday. And it's so cool to see. But I am amazed at the level of dexterity of speaking and devotion to the faith that I have seen from our private preschoolers, our kindergartners. I was just at a school last week where some private pre-K students were talking about God's love, and they articulated how God loved them so eloquently for 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I'm not a parent, but I can only imagine there's so much out of your control as a parent, and you just hope and pray that they do grow up to be well-adjusted, to know God's love, to be happy, to be good, to be kind. And the idea of being able to pick your little one up from school and they are aware that God loves them and that teaches them to love other people. What a relief to just be okay, we're surrounded by it.
Well, especially because people have to work.
Yeah.
You have to work. We all know it. It's New York. Things are expensive. But knowing who is spending those 8 hours with your kid and, like you said, what they're able to teach them of these things. You had a video the other day of, what was it, a 4-year-old that was praying? And
she was like leading a prayer.
Leading a prayer.
It's beautiful, so much confidence.
It was the cutest thing ever. And like the simplest prayer, because it's from a 4-year-old, but you got done, you went, wow, okay, that was a great prayer. I mean, you know, like sometimes the simplest things coming from the mouth of babes, you're like, yep, that's what it's all about.
And it's funny, I was just talking to our previous guest, Luciana, this week about those prayers, the simple prayers you learned as a little kid.
Yeah.
When you're an adult and you're scary, stressful, whatever situation, if I'm on the subway and the lights go off and Hail Mary, full of grace, right?
Yep.
Like, those are the things, those simple, we think of them as simple prayers, are actually like the foundation that then you can live your life with as you grow up.
Totally. My favorite is Tony, look around. I have something to be found. St. Anthony and I are in a first name base.
St. Anthony never, ever leads you wrong.
No.
Give me something to help you find it. Might take some time, but you'll find it.
That's my favorite. And everybody always teases. They're like, you're on a first name basis with him? You call him Tony? And I was like, yes. You knew how many times I lose things. We're on a first name basis.
Real.
It's true. It's true. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, kind of any other practical tips with making the most of these school tours? A lot of our schools have open houses. They have, admission days or buddy days. What advice would you give to a parent who maybe is about to send their little one off to like a buddy day, or they're going to go to an open house? Have questions.
Yes.
Anything to kind of prep the child with as well?
Sure. I would, especially for buddy days, which I think are great for like 3rd grade and up. Mm-hmm. Below that, it might be maybe 2nd grade, but below that, it might be a little young. But the buddy days, I think are so important, because at that age, it would be a transfer into a Catholic school as opposed to starting a Catholic school. So, your child getting a chance to understand, uniforms. Coming from a public school, uniforms aren't a thing. Charter schools, they generally are, but in public school, it's not. So understanding uniforms, the praying, getting a chance to, see if you get along with other kids in your grade. Catholic schools, for the most part, have 1 or 2 classes of the same grade. So those 25 kids are going to be with you for the next, 6, 7, 8 years. Mm-hmm. So, trusting your child. I mean, kids have such an instinct, so really trust and listen to your child on what their instinct is of, did I have a good time? Are these people that I can be friends with? Was it the right fit for me? Because again, try multiple schools. The first one, the personalities may just not get along in the older grades. Try a couple of schools. I mean, you may only end up with that 1 or 2 like solid friends, but we all knew that those 1 or 2 solid friends end up being your friends for the next 60 years. So that's okay. But I would say certainly having the kids, especially the little ones, like if you're going to an open house or something, be bold enough to ask the teachers questions. I don't know necessarily what's on a 4-year-old's mind. It's a scary place sometimes because they get a little crazy, but having the child, seeing if they're comfortable enough to, ask those questions, and you also be comfortable enough. The teachers, like I had said earlier, are with your kids for the most part of the day. Do you feel comfortable in a communication with that teacher and sitting down and having a conversation? Because good or bad, you're going to end up in communication with that teacher for the rest of the year, through parent-teacher conferences and report cards and all of that. And also, feeling out how the communication is with the office. Do you feel that, when you call, they're picking up the phone, they're listening, they're, taking what your problem may, whatever your problem may be, seriously, and trying to work with you on, what is best. So I would say just having as many conversations as possible.
Conversation is what we're coming back to.
Yes.
Over and over again. Communication,
Yeah. Communication.
You cannot get too much
No.
information.
But also, deep dive their social media. If you want to see what sort of fun or events or science labs or field trips, all of these things, deep dive their social media. That's where you will find, that's the highlights. That's the, breakfast with Santas, the Easter egg hunts, all of those fun things that your child can look forward to.
Yes, I love that advice. So, are there any signs you would say? Obviously, all of our schools kind of have different specialties, I would almost say. Like some schools, like you mentioned, are going to have really strong like robotics program, or some schools, they are just like putting on stellar performances. The drama club is full. There's amazing shows. What kind of sort of signs would you say that a parent should look for that it would be the right fit for their child?
Sure. I would say it goes back to your child best.
Yeah.
I'm not saying at 4 years old, please limit them. They like Legos. I guess we should find the robotics school,
Yeah.
I would say finding the school that feels best as a community. And your child, I knew since I was 5 that I was a theater person. But I also know that there are a lot of people like my older brother who didn't find theater until later in school. And then that was his people. He found where he fit. So I think finding a very well-rounded school for the younger and even to the older so that they have time. Our schools are generally 3 years old through 8th grade. So giving them a chance to try as much as possible. Try everything because, if they're trying it in school, like if you try at robotics or you try at theater and you find it's not my thing or not real good at that. Like when it comes to art, I draw stick people. That is my skill level. And I know that, but that's your time to, I always say, to fail.
Yes.
And it's not in a bad connotation at all. Like give your children a chance to fail with something and find or just find that that's not for me. So finding a school that is super well-rounded and, if you know that you go more towards technology or music, then that community may be better for you. And, your child will have time to lean into different things. But, if that's the way you go, because the parents are as much of a part of the school community as the children, it's encouraged. That's the amazing thing about a Catholic school is we want you involved in as much as possible. We want you at the events. We want you, at the different volunteering things and helping out in the classroom. So, finding your right fit too. These are parents that just as much as your kid, these are parents you're going to be with for the next 8 years. Have you found your community? And it's, as, like a new parent of a 3 or 4 year old, your worries and anxieties are probably the same as the other 3 and 4 year old parents. Do you find a connection there? And that's another thing, like at an open house or at a tour, do you get a chance to speak to members of the HAA, the Parent Association? Do you get a chance to talk to parents that have been in this school for 6 years that can tell you, in realness, how the parent community is? And, always look for the other parents because one, they're going to be honest. A principal will be honest, but they also think their school is the greatest because of course they do. Parents will be a bit more honest with you and always ask hey, can I connect with another parent? And the best part about that is then as you, go to your, first breakfast with Santa, someone.
Yes.
Because we all know, as adults, there's nothing more awkward than walking into an event and no one, and it's okay, who do I go talk to? But if you have already been introduced to someone, you have somebody.
Yes.
You have somebody that you can go to. And once you have one, it opens the doors to the others.
Yes.
So make sure there's also a parent connection.
That's huge. And it's something that whenever I do get to talk to families, whether it's interviewing or just at different school events, I'm always so struck by the community, not only within the school environment, the teachers and the students, but also the community with the parents, with the grandparents, aunts, uncles. Like, it is truly such a family community. Would you say that is kind of like the biggest differentiator in Catholic versus obviously the beauty of religion and getting exposed to the sacraments and knowing that God loves them, but in sort of a cultural difference too, would you say that's the biggest differentiator?
Yes, I would say that is the biggest differentiator is we look at our schools as a family. It's all one family. And go out of our way to encourage the community, the togetherness, the, parent engagement, parent involvement, grandparent engagement and involvement. We had a school that the grandparents after COVID figured out they were the ones doing all the drop off and pickup.
Yeah.
And by them, I mean like 100 of them. Wow. So they created a club, like a social club, just for them that, yes, they help out in the school and things like that. But it was more that, well, we're all together when we do drop off, let us do a social club. So, grandparents, especially because, as I said earlier, parents have to work. You have to. And a lot of them stay pretty close to the grandparents or to their parents. So, it's someone that is dropping the kid off and picking them up that you trust. But they can be just as involved anyway. And aunts and uncles, I don't have children of my own. I am an aunt. And it's one of my favorite things. And, getting to go see the school shows and, when a school hosts a career day, mom and dad may not be able to come, but an aunt and uncle may be able to come. And, when they do the special, donuts with dads or muffins with moms, it's the cutest thing when they, use alliteration. But again, mom or dad may not be available. Aunt or uncle could come. And I've even seen some schools that host specific events for the aunts, for the uncles, to give them a chance to connect. And I think it also helps the whole family to have buy-in to the school. If the grandparents are connected, the aunts and uncles are connected, everybody's connected, it's going to make it feel that much more of a community at the school.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I think that's also our biggest differentiator. And it's just something that is so special to witness in every single one of our schools. So that's, I think, just going to be really helpful for our listeners to know.
Yeah.
Katie, are you ready to jump into some rapid fire questions?
Bring it on.
Okay, amazing. One of my favorite parts of the show. What is the most creative school event that you've been to recently?
Oh, this is an easy one because it's my favorite that I go to every year. We have a school that does STEM Olympics for the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and it's like a reverse escape room. So the first event they went to, they had red Solo cups and paper plates, and they had to build the biggest tower that they could and then figure out the math around the dimensions and everything. And then at my station, I got to be a judge. There was a math quiz that led to a word puzzle that led to having to get a key to open a lockbox. There was, different physical pieces, and the whole school was invited to cheer them on. And the energy in that room was so intense. It was so much fun. And every kid from the 3-year-olds to 5th grade cannot wait to be in 6th grade so that they can take part in this event the next time. I love that event.
Wow, that's so special. And it's remarkable how many schools have legacy events like that where kids are waiting years to be able to participate in something. Also, that sounds really hard.
So hard. So hard. I looked at the math quiz and I failed it.
I am consistently impressed by the level of schoolwork that our students are doing?
Well, you and I attended the math bee.
Yes.
Third, fourth, fifth grade math bee. And I don't want to make myself sound unintelligent, but I was out by the third round. Like it's timed and they were just killing
You
it.
have to say, you have to answer in like a specific format.
Yes,
I
in 10
cannot do that.
seconds. And they did amazing. It took like 12 or 14 rounds to get to a winner. And I was like, I'm out.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I wouldn't have even made it to the all school.
Nope.
I would have been out first round.
Give us an oratorical competition and we'll be fine. But
Exactly.
no.
Exactly. So for our listeners to get to know a little bit more about you, like I mentioned, Katie's a huge theater kid. What is your favorite Broadway show of the month?
Death Becomes Her.
Love.
It's classic 90s, which is so big right now. And it's just one of those shows that I went to see. And as a theater kid, I would love to play that role. I would love to play that role. And it was so fun. Like, I know that there's, we're training Shakespeare. So, Shakespeare's great and, really requires your brain. But this was just sit back and fun.
There's nothing like that.
I love it.
One of the best parts about living in New York. Okay, coffee or tea, and what would your order be?
Tea, all day, every day. I am a French vanilla chai latte.
Ooh. Is there a specific spot that you go to that has like the best?
I'm a Starbucks girl.
Okay.
Yeah. Classic.
The great thing about Starbucks, love it or hate it, the reality is when you are in the middle of nowhere on a road trip, at the airport, whatever, they're going to make it the exact same
It's
way.
consistent. It's
Reliable.
consistent. Absolutely. Because sometimes you get it and it's way too much hot water. If you go to like a different shop, like Starbucks always gets it right for me.
Amazing. Another recommendation for our listeners. What is your favorite pizza spot?
Oh, this is
Queens?
controversial because I live in a neighborhood of pizza spots. It actually depends on the type of slice you're looking for.
Okay. Tell us more.
So I am generally a pizza wagon girl, which is in Bay Ridge, and it is a historic spot that's been there forever. They're best for a square slice.
I love a square slice.
But there's also Nino's, also in Bay Ridge, which is perfect for a vodka slice. Which is a very specific, like, I think everybody and their mother's heard of penne alla vodka. So it's that vodka sauce with mozzarella cheese on a classic triangle slice.
So if you wanted to get crazy, could you do like a pizza crawl and go from one to the other?
100%. In my neighborhood, there is probably, I would say, 30 pizza joints.
Wow. That sounds like fun. Okay, taking note of that.
Yes.
What book, author, or mentor has shaped your approach to working with families and your work in enrollment?
Absolutely. So her name is Kathy Link. And when I first started in this job 5 years ago, she was, we hired her through Partners in Mission, which is a company that works countrywide, teaching schools and dioceses how to do admissions, how to do all of those things. And she was my private coach, and we met every week. And she really always drove home to me. It's about the kids, it's about the families. We can get distracted. I mean, in this day and age, you can get distracted by everything. And it always circles back to, do the families feel heard and seen? How is the family feeling? How is the student feeling? Are they the right fit? And to have, back to where we were, have the conversation. Pick up the phone and have the conversation, which, I would say for the generations looking for schools now, picking up the phone can be a very scary thing. But, as we both know, and as anybody knows who does email and text messaging, there's no intonation in an email or a text message. So things can be misconstrued the wrong way, an emotion not given, or it's just going to turn into 3,000 words, where if you just pick up the phone and have the conversation. And that was one of her biggest points for me was, connection. It all comes back to, seeing them as a person, not as another enrollment number.
That is just like, I think, encapsulates so perfectly your approach to connecting with new families. And I would say just our Catholic schools' intention is to always see every single child and every single family as an individual person that we are called to serve, not a number. And that's what makes our schools so special. So thank you so much, Katie, for being on the podcast.
Absolutely.
I will make sure that we have linked in our show notes where folks can find out more about your work and all of our wonderful schools and where they can find a spot for their child.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.